I'm Claudia Romo Edelman.
And I'm Cynthia Kleinbaum-Milner.
And this is a podcast a la Latina.
The playbook to succeed being your authentic self.
Today, the incredible Araceli Loya Lewis.
Araceli is a global sales executive at Dell. She leads a team that is focused on cyber AI and quantum computing.
And these are the three key takeaways of this podcast. Number one, how being a border town girl defined her experience growing up and made her who she is and what she does today.
Number two, how to unpack your failures to learn from them and then achieve whatever it is that you failed at.
And number three, how to navigate this new environment that we're living. Tell me that you're Latina without telling me you're Latina, and use your Latinidad as a superpower, understanding the cultural nuances and the assets that we bring to the table as a ready-to-go list of superpowers.
This and more
here at A La Latina.
Stick around. Before we begin this episode, I want to remind you all that we are publishing a newsletter every week in which we give free resources that you can download to achieve whatever it is that you want from your next step in your career. Getting promoted, getting a raise, becoming an empathetic leader. Make sure to go to alalatina.com and download these worksheets every single week.
Today, the incredible Araceli Loya Lewis.
Araceli is a global executive at Dell, where she leads a team that is focused on cyber AI and quantum computing.
It's such an honor to have you here with us.
It's absolutely my humbling honor. Thank you for having me.
Araceli, we want to start with you. We want to focus all about you and want to know, how did it all start?
Thanks, Claudia. That is a lot to unpack. So I have great stories. I think it's a tapestry of influence, morals, and ethics that I can really attribute to my family. My mother, and I think it's all family. I use that at work, and I use La Familia as the cornerstone, the foundation of who shaped me, my community, my family. But we'll start with three simple things. First of all, it was really important for me to be religious, be Catholic, raised in a Catholic upbringing in El Paso, Texas, which I say barely America, but it was really important to grow up in the border. My father was a Border Patrol agent, and my mother was from a small town in Mexico. She came to the United States. She didn't know English. And so from a very early age, I witnessed and I was surrounded by people that had work ethic, that had determination, that really wanted to do what was right, to be loyal, ethical. So while God was first, family was clearly right there second. We did everything as a family. So I was surrounded by a lot of strength of not only strong women, because my mother was matriarchal and she was really hard on us, but at the same time, we always had a safe space to be with her. And then my father's lineage, really proud. My great-grandfather was in World War I. Great-grandfather was in World War II, and then my dad, a Vietnam veteran. So long, strong men in the military. And then I'm the firstborn, and he thought he would have a son. Well, he got Araceli, a strong woman. So I think that was just the foundation of where I started. And growing up in El Paso, I only knew Spanish. So I go to school in El Paso, Texas, and I start kindergarten with the program called English as a Second Language. So I went to school every day, and my mom's like, "You'll be fine. Tú vete a la escuela. No tienen maizoro, mama. It doesn't matter. You'll learn the words over time." And so she was a strong advocate of education. I love learning, and she bought me my first set of Britannica encyclopedia. Coming from a small pueblo, she knew education was going to be what breaks that cycle. And my curiosity for learning was with her paying payments on that. You know, they'd come sell encyclopedias to you. And she's like, "I'm buying this for you." I'm like, "Oh, it's too expensive." No. She's like, "You read it, you learn," because she didn't get to go to college. Yeah. So she thought, well, if I have these books, I can help her. I can help my daughter and propel her onto the next stage. So I think that was just the most beautiful way to wrap something up so simply. But my dad being a Border Patrol agent also really puts that in my heart, because being picked up at elementary school with this man that has a green suit on and a gun, and he was like my savior. Yeah. And then I had my mother just, you keep going, get straight A's. I was noticed by Duke University. I was very intelligent as a young girl, but I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the private school education. I was really just trying to learn English first, meanwhile trying to get the academics. So my mother was, "You can do the report by yourself." She was always a huge, huge, huge advocate of independence. And I would say, no, but I don't know how to say it in English, much less do research and do a report in a presentation in third grade. And I'll never forget, she said, well, you have the books. Tú solita hazlo. It might take you 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but you're going to do it and you practice with me. And the more you practice, the more confident you get. And yes, you can do it. And once again, I did the report. I got straight A's. Duke University had a gifted and talented program. I was recognized in elementary school. And I think that's the cornerstone, Claudia, to your question is, how did it shape you? How did you become? And I think that courage, education, and that strong familial background with my whole community raising me and kind of pushing me up. I'm beyond proud to be Mexican American, and I love being a Latina, and that is my superpower.
Wow. I feel like I'm only going to do follow-up questions to what you just said, and we're not going to be able to do anything else. So, very practical question. What do you mean that Duke noticed you? You were like 8. So
Right, because they were studying, Duke University was studying children that were learning ESL that had just come into school, but that were testing at a certain level. So they wanted to know and they wanted to understand, where are these children? Where do we place them? Because they were holding me back. I wasn't in the honors program because I didn't know English. But when I would take my math or my science and my straight A's in first, second grade, my teachers noticed that I had the desire to learn, which came from my mother. And she would tell me stories. In my pueblo, she's like, it only went up to 4th or 5th grade. She goes, in my pueblo, we didn't have the luxury and the opportunity to go to school. That is the best thing that anyone can give you. And money can't buy that. And she would constantly tell me, it has to be an A. So if I brought home, what's a 91 or an 89, rip it up, redo it. And I was like, geez, she's just so hard on me. And as I got older, I would ask her, why were you so hard on me? And she said, because I knew you could do it. I had to set my level of expectation with you high because they were holding you back with these students that didn't speak English. But I knew you could break the barriers. And once you did, she's like, it was rocket fuel.
I want to unpack so much of what everything you're saying. So, I mean, your mom was pretty much giving you a set of values that you have adhered to, right? Like discipline, determination, never giving up. So what is the set of values? What are the superpowers and the values that lead your life that, you know, have been installed in you as a child that you keep now? And that you would say that's your playbook for moving it forward. And then if you don't mind, just like, what does it mean to be a border town girl?
It's tough to be a border town girl. It's a really hard place, right? I'm the oldest daughter. I had to help my mom with her business. She took care of elderly people. And she had that empathetic side of, she would get them all to go do a perm and play bingo. And I would see, wow, I saw life. And she would paint such. My mother never went to college, but she would say, yo fui a la Universidad de la Vida, Araceli. And that is the University of Life. We are all humans. Before our culture, before our color, before male or female, we're humans. And so if you cannot connect with a human as another human, what else is there? Right? So that was so strong that she taught that. And I lost her to COVID and it was really tough. But now I've become that matriarch and I feel the weight on my shoulders. And I'm not in a border town, but that grit, that perseverance of, te vas a caer, que levántate, pero levántate más alto. Because if they see you fail, you show vulnerability and humans love your vulnerable side. So I coach my team that when they're with a client and you see their body language, they're standoffish, what do? You say, I might not always be right. I'm not perfect. Even though I create technology for the largest banks on the planet, I make mistakes. And let me understand your pains, your pain points. If you can get that human connection first with people, they like it. And I feel that we go too fast and we're going to get faster with AI. We don't have time since COVID to be in person and connect as people. And that is the most beautiful thing. So if she taught me one thing, it was empathy and human connection. Confidence was huge because I wanted to become a dancer. And that's one thing I haven't told you all. So all of the girls at my school were in cheer. And, you know, my look was not the cheerleader look, clearly. I developed very late in high school, you know, so I was just like not a cheerleader. And I told my mom, I want to dance in high school. I want to do jazz, tap, ballet. And she's like, you can do whatever you want. And I go, but those girls are so pretty, Mom, and they dance and they have such grace. She goes, tú también sí puedes. Claro que sí. She knew nothing about dance and how that worked. And that's a whole pageantry and dancing environment that's really tough on ladies. She would tell me, get in there and try. I'm too embarrassed. It's too late. I missed the dance bus. You know, I can't do it now. No, como que no. Tú métete, ya pagué. And she would sit there and watch me. And until I was able to get it, I tried out for my high school dance team and I didn't make it. There was like 200 girls tried out for the Eastwood High School Trooperettes in El Paso, Texas. They all had beautiful hair, like big perms. I was like, I don't have the hair, I don't have the look, but I was learning the basic pas de bourrée, the turns, and at least I could get there. But when the list came out, my eyes were just welling up, and I told her at home, Mom, I didn't make it. Como que you didn't make it? And I was like, no, I didn't. She's like, out of 100 girls, you didn't make it? No. And she goes, okay, then. She's like, let's go talk to the dance director in the school. And she went in there and she was always an advocate. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. I just didn't make it, Mom. She goes, no, you don't accept, you don't make it. Like, you go in there. And I saw her with her purse and she went in there and she's like, I want to talk to the dance director. How is it that she didn't make it, but 100 girls did? What was she missing? What can we work on? What if I get her a private? She would not take no for an answer. And they said, okay, we'll put you as an alternate. And if any girls get sick, you can train with them and learn. Yeah. And my mom said, okay, that's better than nothing. And I was like, all right. So we negotiated our way in and I was the alternate. Well, by my senior year, I was the leader of the team. So, and we won
amazing.
National High Kick Champions to Neil Diamond. And this is one I'll always take to my grave in my heart. It was a lot of border girls from El Paso. We didn't have a lot of money. We won city, El Paso, we won state, and then we go to ESPN and Disney World, and we danced a dance routine to Neil Diamond. We Come to America today, and we knocked it out of the park. So I show my kids that 1989 ESPN. I'm like, I was a dance superstar. And we won it, Claudia, and you see the girls jumping up and down, and we didn't even have enough money for our uniforms. And so that, I wouldn't have gone. If they said, no, you didn't make it, most girls were embarrassed and left. Not my mother. She was like, when they say no and you want something, you go back. You go find out why. And it made me courageous just to come from that to being on ESPN and on national TV. So I was teaching dance to younger students in my community, and I loved it. I mean, I just loved that.
I think that you represent so well so many Latinas that have strong values coming from mothers, grandmothers, but you started with not a lot.
Nothing.
And how was that navigation process in getting into higher spheres? I would love for our audience to be able to know ahead of time what are the tricks that they need to have in order to navigate and get into the next level and adapt. And be accepted.
My mother did teach me. She's like, when you walk in a room, you notice the leaders. So when I worked at IBM, and there was not many women at the time, I was a technology trailblazer, basically. I was getting all sorts of awards for my designs, but I knew I didn't look the part, Claudia. I knew. And I was aware. So self-awareness of how is it that other people look? Well, at IBM at the time, it was all navy suits and red ties and gentlemen that were older. So there were no females. I didn't know how the hair should look. One thing I did know is my hair is so frizzy that I would just pull it back, and it was a more masculine look, right? I would always wear my glasses versus my contacts because I looked smarter. Know your audience. So I would go to these IBM executive briefings, and I would say, aha, there's a Latina, or there's a lady, and what is her suit look? How does she speak? How does she carry herself? And how does she dominate and lean in into a mostly male environment? So she always told me, Araceli, she's like, humans, we love helping one another. What other human does not want to help you in any way, shape, or form?
Araceli, I would be remiss, I think it's the way to say it in English. How the hell do you do it? You have 5 kids. We've never had a guest that had 5 kids. Do you have a playbook for how you were able to raise your kids? Was your mom nearby?
Yes, she moved. So my mom and dad stayed in El Paso when I went to work for IBM, and I was in Austin first, and then I got the job in Dallas. I was struggling. I was flying to Fed accounts, and IBM had me moving in different directions.
You were sales?
Technical at that point. I was the technical advisor. So I would go with the salespeople, and I would see the salespeople. And
So you started with IBM, you started after El Paso, Duke fetch you? You went to study at Duke?
No, I
or is that
didn't.
it?
I didn't. In the program, as they studied us, we were more of a research study, but I never got the Duke offer. But I went to high school and I did my dance kick championship thing.
Yeah.
And then my mom and I said, we're going to go to college somewhere. But she was so Catholic. She's like, the only place I think you should really go is San Eduardo. And I go, that's so expensive, Mom. She goes, maybe you'll get a scholarship. I'll get loans. Don't worry about the money. You're going. And she believes so much in me. I'm like, gosh, how's my mom going to pay for that? She's like, as soon as they meet you, they will love you. You have some enigma. You have some kind of a good energy, she would say. And they will love you so much. And we'll figure out how we pay, but you get in there. And so I was like, okay.
And you did.
I got in. And I was like, oh, goodness, now how's she going to pay? So I had this guilt. I was like, she was a dental hygienist. She took care of old ladies in her bus, like 4 or 5 of them in her house. And she would change their diapers, dress them up. They all did makeup. They would go play bingo every day. And when I saw her doing it and doing it and doing it, I'm like, well, if my mom could do it and I'm going to get an education and do, 10% of what she is. She is la jefa. Like she represents a northern Chihuahua. She had a ranch. She did the horses. By the time everyone got up when she was younger, she had taken care of a whole household, then the kids, and then support my dad in his job. And then she was at church and she would say, you have to be a good person. You have to help other people. So all of that made me go to St. Edward's. And there was another little story, because I'm full of stories, where George W. Bush, she goes, go get a job. She goes, I can't send you money. You have to get straight A's, because you have to get straight A's and keep on scholarship, but you have to get a job for a night. So I go and I interview at the governor's desk, because there was a trade show. I didn't know where to go find a job. And so I asked my counselor, and she says, there's a job fair in Austin. Go to that. So I go and I meet a lady at a desk, and I said, hey, my mother and my dad are making a huge sacrifice for my school. It's very expensive, St. Ed's. She's like, oh, wow. I said, I don't have really a whole lot, so I need to do extra, like on the weekends and at nights. Well, what do you like? And I said, well, I want to be a lawyer when I grow up. And I just really would love to dress like a lawyer and travel the world, and I want to do international business. That's what I'm studying. And she said, okay, well, let me call you back. I think you'd be a good candidate for this position. I didn't know what. She calls me back. Well, at the governor's office, we have an assistant to the governor. I was like, great. I'll take it. So Governor George W. Bush, I meet him and I'm like, hello, sir. And he's like, oh, great. So what background do you have? And I come from El Paso. I will do anything you need me to make coffee. I know how to make coffee. I know how to do anything you need me to. And he was so gracious and he was so amazing with me. I was on the governor's committee to promote adoptions in Texas. And he goes, look, tell you what, I need some help on this group. All these judges and lawyers are going to meet on this law. And while you're out of school and you have to study, just let us know. But he's like, for all the mothers that adopt children and they adopt them, and then when the child's like 12 or 13 or later in life, the biological mom wants to come back and says, I didn't make a good decision. I want my child back. So it really was disrupting the child, right? So with my empathy and where I came from, El Paso, I was like, no puede ser. Like, how in the world this new family has a child? So I worked my last 2 years of college with George W. Bush, and I would go to these dinners with him that I was like, I can't afford that. Don't worry, we'll loan you a dress. Araceli, you come. You're going to come to the White House with us because I'm going to be the president. And I was like, of course you are. Yes. And I loved that he would always compliment my hometown. He would say, I go to El Paso, the best bakery, the Bowie Bakery. Oh, I love the tacos at wherever. And so he was just such a warm man that did connect with me.
I'm so sorry. Am I missing the point? So you were basically in your first job.
At the governor's office. But I wasn't going to do that. That's where I had to pivot. And you would ask me, were you going to go tech? Remember that story?
Right.
Are you going to go technology? Or are you going to go to the White House? Well, I wasn't sure if he'd win. What if he didn't win? And my mom and my dad are like paying for loans and loans and loans for school.
Yeah.
And I was like, IBM comes for my senior year. I studied in Spain for my capstone, my theology and that thesis. I come back my senior year at St. Edward's, and the IBM was like, oh, we would really like to hire Latinas. And I was like, oh, wow, well, that's me. And I have good grades and hire me. But am I going to go to the White House or do I go here? So my mom says, well, get all your offers and let's look at it. So I looked at my job offers and I chose technology because my dad had worked for the government for so many years. And he said, they're going to move you. You might be in Fed. You might be at the IRS. They might have you at the Pentagon. And so my parents, because they had been working with government, and I think now that I look back, we have 401ks, but my dad's got a pension. So they didn't tell me about any kind of financial future and planning. So I chose technology. And I told the governor, he's like, oh, we're just going to miss your spirit and your vibrancy and your positivity. So always be positive is what I would tell Latinas, and put yourself in those connections and environments, and you will get noticed.
So you started at IBM low level, entry level.
Yes, and they offered me a job. I didn't know what the title was, Claudia.
Okay, and so you went from IBM and you were asking about mom and how did she do it? How did you do entry level job, tech, 5 kids, and then you
Well, I
went
didn't get the
IBM
5 kids till later, but I did IBM. They invested in me. They saw something in me, and as an engineer, I wasn't an engineer at college. I had an international business degree, but I was summa cum laude, like number 2 in my class. And so IBM said, we hired you because of your grades. They did a psychology test. They sent me to Armonk, and I was like, what's going on? Well, we're going to do the psychology test. Don't worry. We just want to see what job would fit you best. Because I didn't know, because I never had the role models. And had IBM not done that to see the psychological fabric behind, my brain, they knew that I was a linguistic, that I loved languages and that I loved culture and that I could connect with people. And they knew that I had an attention to detail, whether it's a handbag or a purse or a spreadsheet or a network. They said, we're going to teach you in 6 months. And they put me in a 6-month program to learn an operating system. So I was an OSS, operating system specialist.
So that's where you became an engineer?
Yes, that's where I went to engineering school, 6 months coding, date, time on this Unix platform because they were selling so much of it. They didn't have enough engineers. So he said, if we can find people that learn fast, we will teach them without an engineering degree.
And this is a commercial for companies like IBM that invest in people like you to help in the navigation. First job, what are your psychological skills and so on? Thanks.
Yeah, that was fantastic. They gave me such a beautiful investment in my time and what I learned with them to be able to get to sales. And it was an evolution.
Yeah.
At first, they would keep me in the closet doing all the charts and doing all the code. And then as I started going consulting as the technology person, then I said, I can be the client executive. I could be the one that meets with the CEO.
Yeah.
Because I can ask about business problems. And I think that I didn't know that I had all of these really great skills, but they were the ones that highlighted it. So
from IBM, you went to Dell.
Brocade was another stop, networking company, and then to Dell. And I've been at Dell almost 8 years now. And there I started as a consulting an account executive. And then they said, Araceli, the numbers are great. What is it that they always ask me, what is it that you're doing different? We need to clone you. And I'm like, it's impossible. Like I
have 5 kids.
I am 5 kids.
I already cloned myself.
Love mariachi music and I put it on for my team and I make work fun. And it's a recipe for success. And they said, you're going to do global. And I get on with my EMEA team. We have a great time. I visit them in London and Paris. We did Oktoberfest. I visit my APJ team. So I just feel like I finally have blossomed. And I really wish my mother was here to have seen me blossom. But my family, they're my biggest cheerleaders. Like we have a La Familia text and I'm like, oh, I'm going to meet with Claudia and Cynthia today. Sí se puede. And it's just so beautiful that I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. So I want all Americans to see culture and to see the beauty in all of that and not just see skin color and not just see, oh, people want handouts. No.
Yeah. You didn't say anything about how you handle 5 kids.
No, it's just tough. I just did it. I mean, my husband, Paul, is amazing. And he, in the morning, we would get them ready. But I like my mother did to me, said, okay, you're going to do your laundry on Monday. You've got Tuesday. You've got Wednesday. I dispersed and delegated like a business. I was running my own little business at home because I couldn't do all of it.
Yeah.
So they would all do their laundry like by 1st and 2nd grade. They all would pack their lunches at night and we'd make a little lunchbox line. And they all made their lunches and they all said, Mom, you're different. You're too hard on us. And I was like, no, my job here is not to be your best friend on social media. It's to raise you on the right path. Because I tell them all, you all are going to do better things than me. You all are going to be above Araceli. You will go to those big schools. You will get, an offer right into the C-suite.
Yeah.
But I had to kick and scream and claw and make my way to the top, getting noticed.
Yeah.
And not being just handed an opportunity.
So we always close asking our guest if you could speak to Araceli when she was like 30, early 30s, and give her a piece of advice that would make the journey a little bit easier, what would that be?
Don't be afraid. I think that I probably missed some opportunities because I had the 5 kids, and I know that my male counterparts said they had a lot of kids. They had just as much busy life, and they said, I can do the job. And I said, oh, I better stay, I better just stay in this role. So I held myself back. And I didn't just jump in and do it. And I know I would have been, now looking back, I could have done it far better than some of those candidates. I just was really scared to take the risk with children.
Yeah.
But we as Latinos help each other. So I had my tia, my aunt, I had everybody around me. Why was I afraid?
Yeah.
I even had my mother back then. So now that she's gone, I really wish back then I would have just said, IBM had me on the executive fast track.
Yeah.
And it was on the fast track to be an executive at a very young age, that they would train you and then put you in that position. But it was a lot of travel, and my kids were little. So I sacrificed that. So if I was younger, I would tell all the younger moms, go for that job and don't be afraid of it. And there will be a way.
Yeah.
There will be a way. Araceli Loya Lewis, this has been incredible.
This was great. Like, I feel like it's gonna be hard to edit down. Thank you for so much insight, so much vulnerability. It was great.
Thanks to your advice and your wisdom, our Latinas are gonna be able to lead and succeed.
A la Latina!